I was reading the other morning in Acts chapter 2, and it struck me that something that, and it's typical, I guess. I've read over it, dozens of times, and I read through the passage, and I don't really think a lot about it. I don't know that I've heard anybody teach on this particular aspect, but there's a portion where it talks about Acts chapter 2, obviously, is the day of Pentecost. It talks about how suddenly there were a bunch of people gathered around. Now, many, many times we've heard the message about how Peter preached and 3,000 people, came to know the way, the Christ, to recognize that the man that had just died on the cross was the Messiah, was Yahweh. And a lot of Jewish people had a really hard time with that then. They do now. That's understandable. But here's the picture that many of us get, because we think of modern day gatherings, a modern day revival seminar style, where everybody's gathered together, they all bought tickets, they all came to the hotel, they were waiting for something spectacular. And that's not what happened. In fact, you can go back to when Jesus was on his way into town for the Passover. His brother said, why don't you send an advance team? Go ahead and send a forward team in there. Let them know you're coming. Tell them about all the miracles you're going to do when you get to town. That way you'll already have a crowd when you get there. And Jesus said, no, I'm not going to do that. In fact, he told his brother, I'm not even sure I'm going. And then later snuck into town privately, secretly. And of course, the scribes and the Pharisees were on the lookout for him. They had people spying into the community to report him if he showed up. And sure enough, he did. They found him. They killed him. But on the day of Pentecost, there was no advance team, no posters, no flyers, no product launch formula. There was nothing to tell them this moment was coming until it came. And what it says is that the faithful were gathered together, about 120 of them, in one building, one house, one room. Now, I don't know how big that house is. I haven't been to Israel. I haven't actually seen it. I know others have. I've seen footage of it. I've seen footage where Dr. Randy Weiss kind of points to it and says that would have been the house. It's been guarded. Peter's house, Peter's mother's house even, or mother-in-law's house is easily distinguishable. The irony is that while it's a small community, Jerusalem even then was a pretty big city. It's a big bunch of people. And they were all gathered together for Passover week. Remember, that was the reason they took Jesus off the cross, was for the Passover. And so we're in a season of festivals. And in this season of festivals, there are still pilgrims in town who are hanging out. Now, I know it's not the same week, it's not the same day, but that season of festivals draws a lot of people to Jerusalem for religious worship. And there were a lot of people in town for religious worship. And as they were in town, a noise. That's what it says. A noise like a mighty rushing wind filled one house. It doesn't say it filled the whole town. It says it filled one house. But then it does say that everyone heard it and came running to figure out what it was. And that's when they arrived to find all of these Galileans, one group of guys, all speaking in different languages. It was like the inverted Tower of Babel for a day. For the one day, the concept of the Tower of Babel was undone. In that place, in that moment, the idea that every race and creed was separated by language was done. This group of guys, they spoke in every language. Or did they? It says that everyone heard them in their own language. Now, there are a couple of parallels that I want to draw here. The question on the screen, it's actually two questions, but it's really the same question. That is, how do you draw a crowd? How do you build a platform? What gets people's attention? How do you build a tribe or an audience? Because those are really all the same question, aren't they? How do you, as an influencer, as a leader, gain influence? How do you build an audience? How do you get people to follow what you're doing? Well, the truth is, if you lift up Jesus, he will draw all men nigh. There are a lot of ways to build an audience. There's a lot of ways to build a platform. There's a lot of different ways to get people to gather around when you talk. You can pay them. You can charge them. You can pay others. You can ethically bribe them. You can offer them something in return for gathering around it. And that may not be in person. It may be on a webinar or a seminar or at a theater. There are many ways to gather people together, and there are a lot of different formulas, if you will, for doing that. Different ways to explain the opportunity, different ways to explain the cause, different ways to explain the benefits, different ways to sales pitch it, if you will. And all of those mechanisms still have kind of the same result, and that is they may be coming to see, to hear, and to follow the influencer, but they're still asking one question. What's in it for me? Is it the bonuses? Is it the sign-up bonus? Is it what I'm going to get out of it? Is it that if I come to this workshop, seminar, class, training, whatever it is, that I'm going to be a better me, that I'm going to be more efficient, I'm going to be more productive, I'm going to generate more profit, I'm going to have more sales, I'm going to grow into a better person? That's the question the tribe or the audience is really asking, which is not unlike the ones, many of them, who followed Jesus around during his time in his public speaking career. In fact, at one point, there were close to 5,000 men plus women and children gathered on a hillside as he taught them. Then he also fed them. And then they followed him, and he said, listen, I know you're not here because of what I said. You're here because I fed you. You're not here for what I'm trying to give to you and transform you. You're here because of the free giveaways. You didn't even sign up for the content. You signed up for the free bonuses. Is this beginning to sound familiar? See, there's a difference between a loyal tribe of followers, which would have been like the 12 when Jesus said to them, look, all these people are leaving. You want to go? I mean, you can go. Feel free to leave. But his disciples said, who would we turn to? Well, you're the one with the words of life. Where would we go? If we didn't follow you, who would we follow? That's a pretty profound question. But when I ask the question about building your influence, building your platform, building your followers, if you will, the question I'm really asking is, could you, like Paul, say, follow me even as I follow Christ? I am so desirous to be committed to the way that I'm okay if it's not a gigantic following. That's what Paul was really saying. I'm going this way, and I know this way brings a lot of problems. It brings a lot of trouble in my life. This is not going to be an easy way, but it's the way that I believe I'm supposed to go. And when we look at that relationship, that opportunity, that chance to follow, we understand that the what's in it for me is it's a whole lot of trouble. It's a lot of stress and strain on relationships. It's a lot of misunderstandings in conversation. There's a lot of challenges to following the way. But the way, the truth, and the life, if it really is the only way, then anything else is a bunch of gibberish anyway. And that's a decision you're genuinely going to have to make on your own. And you're going to be held accountable for how you make that decision. Do you want to build a tribe of followers who follow for the freebies that you give them? See, in my business as a leadership coach, one of the challenges that I find is that it's real easy to have a free event and get a few hundred people and hope that out of those few hundred people, 2 or 3% of them will convert to new paying clients. That seems to be the model for a lot of things. But because there are so many people following that model, the freebies that you give away have to be more and more valuable. You've got to give away more than you would have sold. Sometimes you find yourself giving away more in value than you'll recoup in profit. That's not a very strong business model. Jesus had a large crowd following him, but he wasn't interested in the large crowd in the same way. He loves people. He didn't care who the people were that were following him, but he wanted to know that they were loyal. See, in that day, it was everything to know that you could trust the people around you. Still is. And there's a big difference between building a giant audience who really doesn't care what you have to say, they just like the freebies, and building a tribe or a loyal following, a team that's deeply passionate about what you have to say because they're deeply passionate about the same things. They want to see the same transformations. They want to see life changed around them. That's pretty important. But so they come to a different sound. It's not the bling bling ka-ching ching that draws everybody else. It's not the promise of a wonderful profit margin or a Lamborghini in the driveway or a new rollie on your arm. That's not what draws them. If it is what draws them, it's what will decide that they leave as well. If they're drawn by the fortune and the fame, when that's gone, what do you got? If they're drawn by the idea that they would be fortunate and famous as well, if that doesn't happen for them, where will they be? If they're drawn by the free give-me's, the giveaways, the bonuses, the sign-up bonuses, what happens when you run out of those? Will they go find the next freebie sign-up bonuses? I can tell you there have been, I would say, at least 3 dozen in the last couple of years who've offered a free PDF file or a free ebook or a free video download or audio download if you sign up for whatever. And so what I really wanted was the webinar. What I really wanted was the seminar. What I really wanted was the bulk of education from them. And sometimes I bought and sometimes I didn't. But many of their free downloads, I still have them on my iPad or on my laptop on the hard drive, but never read them. I wasn't there for the freebies. I was there for the real content. Now, I know some people, they want to test the content, and so that's what the freebie is for. But here's what I found with most of them. There's not really any meat. There's no real content in the freebie. The 5,000 that gathered that day, even those who rushed to find out what the noise was in the upper room, many walked away unsatisfied. Many got their fill for the day. They got their fish and their loaves for the day. They got their sustenance for the day. But they didn't really want the depth of what was there. They got the free ebook. They got the free download video or download audio. And that was enough for them. That was it. That was all the depth they wanted. They wanted the free thing. They got the free thing. They're done. They're moving on. You could call them customers. You could call them interested. You could call them tire kickers. You could put on your subscribe list and keep sending them stuff over and over until they unsubscribe and just see if they ever convert to an actual customer. Personally, as fun as it might be to have 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 followers who follow me around for the free stuff, I'd much rather have those loyal who challenge me to be better, who encourage me to be better. You know, the iron sharpening iron, that are close enough in my life to have a conversation with, to brainstorm with, to say, wow, I love that idea, but what if? To me, that's powerful stuff because that helps to transform me as well. Now, I love having my coaching clients. I love sitting down with people and helping draw new ideas out of them, whether it's the way they tell a story or it's the business idea that they have to take that to the next level, or it's the marketing strategy that's going to help them break out. All of that is fun to me. All that is stimulating. And I love having customers. But the tribe of people that I live my life with, the people that I pour deeply into to disciple, to lead. I expect from them a little more than customers. I want to see friendship. I want to see honesty and transparency and integrity. But I also want to know this, that at the end of the day, when all the freebies have run out, when all those people who gathered around because of the sound, because we drew attention, because we made a splash in the market, when all those people have faded away and they've gotten what they came for, whether it's the freebie thing or they invested once, when that regular level of customers is gone, that the people that I'm pouring the most of my life into are influencers. They're leaders. They're a smaller core of dedicated believers who are faithful to the message that I believe I'm supposed to be delivering. People who want to participate in delivering that message. People who want to be transformed by that message, in that message, through that message, and as they deliver that message. That's what I really want to build. Or to quote John Maxwell, if I die having led 30,000 followers, so what? If I die having led 1,000 leaders, who've led 1,000 leaders, who've led 1,000 leaders, then I will have impacted millions. And I'd rather lead leaders than followers. What about you? Do they gather for the freebies? How did you build your audience? Or how will you build your audience? What is your platform built on? Is it built on massive numbers with a 1 to 2% sell-through? Or is it built on genuine, honest, deep, relatable discipleship, mentorship? Are you leading leaders, people who will get in line with the message that they're called to and begin delivering that as well? I'm just asking. I'm J Loren Norris, and you've been watching Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.